Arthur. I had no idea. Arthur has been coming to the events and to clubs. And then we had no idea. Can we give him another round of applause? So good. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tina Roth-Eisenberg. I'm the founder of Creative Mornings and your New York City chapter host. And I'm so happy right now. Look at this room. Also, I'm extra happy. I'm actually quite emotional because there's a, right now, the reason my partner Tim is not here because he lives in the Hudson Valley. And guess what is kicking off today? The Hudson Valley chapter. And I'm so happy. And the person that's running in, Copy Graham, who's a legend, he's just a wonderful human. He keeps texting me saying, I want to make you proud. And he has no idea. He's already making us proud. So I want to send him a video message. Can we just, like, when you see me kind of go passing by you, can you just cheer for Copy and his team? Okay, hold on. Let's start over here. 1, 2, 3. Hey, Copy, that was for you and the Hudson Valley chapter. Okay, thank you for playing along. That was great. All right, so this is our very first time hosting Creative Mornings New York at Civic Hall, and it's so exciting to be here. I want to thank James. James, where are you? Can you stand up for a second? Right there. That is James. He and his team are incredible. They're super friendly, super organized, and have been so generous with welcoming us here. Who is here for the first time at Civic Hall by raise of hand? So many of you. So, in case you don't know what Civic Hall is, because I honestly didn't know before I got a tour, Civic Hall spans over multiple floors in this building and brings together events and education and community within New York City's tech ecosystem. And very similar to Creative Mornings, it's designed to spark connection, creativity, and civic engagement. And Civic Hall supports everything from conferences, keynotes, galas and weddings, and hands-on classes and panels and community meetups. I really urge you to check out their website. And also, Civic Hall is the home to a thriving co-working community of mission-driven organizations, entrepreneurs, and creatives working in the areas of technology and social impact. So, James is over there. You saw him stand up. If you want to know more about it, please look up James or ask me for a connection when I want you to tour the space. It's stunning. Okay. So the night before our events, I spend way too much time looking at who's attending, because you can do that on the event page. There's a button that says, look who's attending. And I actually click on your profiles, believe it or not. And so there was this one avatar that really caught my attention. It's very creative. And I learned that Sadi is a talented illustrator and tattoo artist. And by the way, that little heart next to the name means he's single. Okay, and then Lisa I learned that Lisa is a digital nomad pioneer. She's originally from Cape Town, and she's been to 687 events. I need to talk to Lisa. And then there's people like Eric that don't give away all that much. Eric, are you here? Maybe he's also not showing up, but I'm just saying, imagine Eric was here. Also, I understand if you're not standing up, but Eric, imagine you had a really good conversation with someone during breakfast, and then that person is trying to find you because they want to reach out to you and maybe collaborate or ask you on a date, and then you're a croissant and they can't find you. So please, people, update your profile photos. Don't be croissants. Cool. Every month, we have a member of the community read our manifesto to remind us of why we do what we do here at Creative Mornings. And this month, it's the legendary Dawn Barber, who's the co-founder of the New York Tech Meetup. She's actually the reason why we're here, because she invited me in for coffee and said, and while you're here, you should meet James. And then James toured the whole building, and I just said, James, please host us. And here we are. So Dawn, please take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Tina, and yeah, welcome everyone to Civic Hall. And again, I'll thank James as well for hosting everyone here. Here's Tina's Creative Mornings manifesto. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections, in learning from others, in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
Okay, who was brave enough to put their name into the 30-second pitch wheel? So 4 people get at the end of the event the mic for 30 seconds, and Abby's going to tell us who these people are.
Hello, everyone. So if you hear your name, come to the stage after Q&A. Shia, Jennifer, Alina, and Matthew.
Matthew is my first boss and the reason why I made it set foot in America. So this makes me very happy. Also, all of you, especially you, Matthew, 30 seconds. Okay? Okay, so let's play a game. It's called Stand Up If. It's my favorite thing to do. You all only get 1 ticket when you sign up here, so you maybe came alone. And we want to give you a bit of a sense who's in the room and maybe give a reason to talk to someone. So the way it works is I'm going to project sentences to the screen, and if they apply to you and if you're capable of getting up, please get up. So, stand up if you're proud of yourself for getting up early and socializing at 8:30 on a Friday morning. See, I'm a morning person. This is normal to me, but stand up if you're visiting from another city. Okay. Who thinks they're the furthest away from New York City? Okay, so let's try. Tokyo. Oh my God. Anyone? Can anyone beat Tokyo? And you win, Matthew. Stand up if you're an introvert, but you pushed through and came anyway. Stand up if you're for hire. Okay. Do you want to shout out some of the roles? Trade director. Creative director. What was that? Health tech advisor. Community builder. Producer. Education programming. Film director. Hire and research. Okay, and so now I'm going to say stand up if you're hiring. Did you hear that? Okay, we have a job board. Okay, stand up if you know where you're going in life. You are on your path. I applaud you. Stand up if you are pondering big life decisions right now. And given the time we're in, we all need this. Stand up if you have a hobby that soothes your heart. All right, so now I want to hear what those hobbies are. Pottery? Knitting? Bird watching. Dancing. What was it? Saxophone. Okay, you know what? All of those things would make a really good club. I mean it. I am dreaming of a bird watching club. Whoever that person was, please come up to me afterwards. Okay, in case you're wondering, what is she talking about? Clubs is our latest experiment in gathering you all around something you guys love and makes you happy. Clubs are small, hyper-local meetups run by you for each other. Because I believe the future is not lonely, it's hyper-local. So we started clubs on the belief that community is what happens when you do what you love together, which is a quote by Pete Davis. So if there is something you love doing, that thing that soothes your heart, I invite you to start a Creative Mornings Club because you set the container and we fill the room with creative, curious, kind humans. So no matter what that thing is you love, I promise you there is someone out there who wants to love it with you. So what is it you like doing? Please don't overthink it because Pam loves knitting. Pam's an introvert. She's amazing. She loves knitting. She wants to knit with other people. She started Knit Together. There's Lenny who loves dumplings and discussions. So we have dumpling discussions. There's Heather who loves plants, so she started a houseplant education club. There's Michelle who loves to play, so she started a play club. There's Ricardo who loves old movies, and he opens his own to a movie club. And there's the legend Nelson, who is our rock star, who's here, taking photos back there. He loves walking neighborhoods and taking photos. And so he started Photogapels, which is always waitlisted at this point. So please, start a club, apply to start a club. Come to me if you have an idea. We'll help you execute on it. I promise you will not regret it. And the one person that is single-handedly making the existence of clubs possible is the wonderful human Ruth Ann Harnish. Ruth Ann has changed the trajectory of Creative Mornings in 2024 when she asked me for coffee and decided to give me, after talking to me for 10 minutes, to give us $1 million. And then last December, she doubled down and said, Tina, you need to exist. And she gave us $2 million to cover operational costs and the build out of our club's offering. Has anyone been at the December event where Debbie Millman interviewed her? Wasn't that wonderful? Go look up that conversation. Ruth Ann is a force, and she has a big heart, and this is how we feel at HQ about Ruth Ann. Okay, I'm curious, who's a first-timer here? Raise of hand. Oh my God, there's so many of you. First of all, I will give you a hug if you want afterwards. So please come up to me. And then you might not know that actually Creative Mornings is happening all over the world. It started here in New York, but we are gathering the creative community in over 70 countries. Every dot on this map represents a chapter run by generous volunteers. That means over 20,000 get together in over 70 countries every month. And this is possible because of the generosity, like people like Ruth Ann, but also because of the generosity of companies that believe in the creative community and that we are meeting up face to face. Take Adobe, for example. They support us on a global level, and as a global partner, they are fully embedded into our universe and recognize that every event, every month, for example, in Lisbon, Bengaluru, Chicago, Paris, San Francisco, Santa Fe, Tegucigalpa, or here at the 10th anniversary of the Charlotte chapter last month. Adobe cares deeply for this community and believes in meeting up face to face, so thank you, Adobe. Are you glad we welcome you with coffee when you walk in the morning? I am. That is made possible because of our local partners, and I want to thank them too. Harvest is just like us, a New York City-based company. I love that they make me think about time. I'm a lover of quotes, so whenever I find a quote around time, I pull it in and I share it with you. For example, this one by Tennessee Williams, time is the longest distance between two places. So if you think about time and you have to deal with time tracking and invoicing, Harvest makes it really delightful and easy, so thank you, Harvest. And then our beloved, long-standing MPB, Maggie and Tammy are here somewhere, they're right there. Thank you so much for supporting our community. In case you're not familiar with MPB, they make it really easy to give your unused camera gear a new life or adopt a used camera gear. So if you have a lens or a camera sitting in your drawer, set them free. And whenever I prepare for these slides, I end up going down a deep rabbit hole on what's new on their site because every week they add about 4,000 new items. And then yesterday I clicked on the blog because they have an article about the best compact cameras for vacation and travel, and the winner is this one by Sony, which made me sad because I owned it, I dropped it on gravel, it broke, and now I know what to buy again and go back to MPB. All right, here we are. Are you still with me? Cool. Okay, so in our universe, every month we have a theme where all the chapters around the world pick a speaker to, and the February theme is Camino. It's chosen by our Oviedo chapter in Spain, and Camino means pathway. And someone with an extremely interesting career path is today's guest, Eli. Eli has spent his career asking a simple but powerful question: how can technology actually strengthen democracy? So at 23, he stepped into the role of executive director of MoveOn.org, and he helped pioneer online citizen engagement. He went on to co-found Avaaz, now the world's largest citizen movement, wrote the book The Filter Bubble, and co-founded something I really love, Upworthy, bringing important civic stories to hundreds of millions of people. Today, through New Public, Eli is focused on building digital public spaces that are healthier, more human, and truly in service of community, which is really what we need. So, Eli, I'm so happy you're here.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? I'm Eli, and this is going to be a very neighborly kind of talk. And so before we get going, I just want everybody to do the thing where you like turn to someone you don't know and introduce yourself. Just take a minute and say hi. All right. Coming back. All right, let's come back. But all right, everybody, come on back. Okay, but that noise, that's a good. Let's come back. This is good. This is the energy that. Yes. All right. So that was a beautiful noise, and that feeling of connecting to other people, that happy feeling of getting to meet people and connect people is what I really want to talk about today. And you know, the theme this month is Camino, and that can mean way, and that can mean path, and that can also mean just road or street. And I want people to think for a moment about the place, a place that you love, a street that you love, a neighborhood that you love. I live on a road in Fort Greene in Brooklyn, right near Fort Greene Park. Fort Greene people here? Woo! Yeah, and actually Tina is my neighbor. And I want you to think about that feeling of walking down a street in a place that you love. And think about, you know, the friendly stranger that you don't really know the name of, but you kind of wave hi. Think of the guy at the bodega or the store that knows what condiments you like. Think of the like tree that you're really familiar with that's fighting this noble battle against the sidewalk. And the old guy with the yappy dog that, you know, you don't love the dog, but you love the guy. And that feeling of walking somewhere and being a part of the place and being a part of it with other people. And it's a deep and old and important human feeling, the feeling of human connection. And before we had all this modern technology of cars and asphalt, we had these neighborhoods and places that belong to and that bring us into relationship with each other. So here's Fort Greene, and it feels good. And then we open our inbox, or we open our phone, and we go on Nextdoor. And here's an email that I got recently from Nextdoor on February 12th about a guy being killed on a subway platform in the Bronx. And here's another one that I got recently about some horrible abuse situation. And I want you to notice, I'm on Nextdoor in Fort Greene, but these aren't things that are happening in Fort Greene. They're actually happening way far away from me in New York City. But some algorithm at Nextdoor figured out that this was what was going to get me to tune into the platform. And so this is what they send me. And they're the things that Nextdoor thinks will engage me the most. And another day, and this is what got me really mad, Nextdoor sent me this email, which was about a stabbing in Midtown, but then they also decided to send me this comment, capture them and send them back to where they're from. This is what went out into the bloodstream, into the inboxes of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers. This is the way that they want us to see our communities. This is what the largest neighborhood platform in the world thinks our communities are. It's fear-mongering as engagement bait, taking the idea of a neighborhood and turning it into a crime blotter with ads. An all-time low in New York, but you wouldn't know it if you're looking through this lens. And so this isn't just annoying, it changes how we see each other in community, because how we imagine our community shapes what we do. And so if your neighborhood app tells you every day that your neighbors are crazy or racist or dangerous strangers, you act accordingly. And you stay home more, and maybe you wave hi less, and you suspect, and you disengage, and you fight. And that's why we're seeing, in part, this steep drop in social trust in America, where in 1980, 45% of Americans said that most people can be trusted. Now it's way under 30%, and it's falling. And I'm not saying that Nextdoor or Facebook or any of these platforms alone cause this, but the tools that we build either build trust or erode it. And right now, a lot of our digital tools are eroding the trust that we have with each other. So how do we get here? And I'm going to introduce a term. I should have mentioned, this is a PG, not PG-13, but PG talk. There's a little bit of swearing. Plug your ears if that's not okay. But the great Tory Doctorow actually has a term for what is happening, which is called enshittification. And it's a really great book. I highly recommend it. Corey's a futurist and author. And he talks about this cycle that our big digital platforms go through, where in the beginning, they're good to users because they need to grow. And so Uber rolls out, and it's cheap, and it's great, and it's fast, and everybody swarms onto it. And then it reaches this inflection point where all that money that they were spraying out into the world to make the service good needs to be recouped and then some by the owners and the investors. And so the platform shifts from offering value to the users to extracting value from the users and offering it to the owners. And so it's really not that the people at these companies are evil, but it's that the economic structure actually demands this extractiveness. And as it turns out, Nextdoor is a perfect enshittification case study. So, 2016, a few years after it launched, Nextdoor was in 100,000 neighborhoods. People were finding lost cats and recommended plumbers, and we actually got some internal data. The sentiment, the net promoter score was pretty high, and people were really kind of liking it. And then something happened. And what happened was that in 2021, Nextdoor decided to go public. They made this cash grab. And so they started to think about, how can we turn all of the engagement knobs up to an 11, so we've got a great story for our investors, so we make a lot of money for the people who are going to buy the IPO. And what happened next was that net promoter score crashed. People started to hate the platform. And according to the folks that we've talked to, there were really kind of three drivers here. One was that, how I was saying that even in Fort Greene, I'm seeing stuff from way across the city because it's the most engaging? Well, that was a deliberate choice that was made to, instead of focusing it on the stuff that's happening right here, show people whatever is the most engaging anywhere near, anywhere in their broad vicinity. They also undermine community features, stop prioritizing member value. And this story, the main thing I want to share is this isn't a story that's unique to Nextdoor. This is the script that every Silicon Valley consumer platform follows, and it's why we can't have nice things online. And so, but you know, I think it has real consequences. It makes me mad when I get this email because it's not just a worse product. It's a worse experience of our collective selves. It's a worse experience of the world, a worse imagination of who your neighbors are. So why does enshittification keep winning? And I think one of the reasons that it keeps winning is because building software is really, really expensive. So, you know, the entry-level engineer these days makes $250,000 to $400,000. You can make a lot more if you're at a big company, you're really good. And you need hundreds of these people, or you have needed hundreds of these people to build consumer scale software. And all those like ping pong tables, you know, exist to kind of like attract the talent and validate the talent that you need to build these platforms. And that cost structure is a trap. Because if it costs $100 million a year to build a big tech platform, you need a business model that extracts at scale. And you need the ads, and you need the engagement optimization, and you need the algorithmic fear. This is the physics of the world that we've lived in. So part of the reason that we don't have better community platforms isn't a lack of imagination or a lack of wanting to make something better. It's not even the intentions of the people in these places, but it's the economics of Silicon Valley that haven't allowed for better sociality. And I'm going to say the word because it's 2026, AI. But I know that we all have very mixed feelings about this new advent. But I think part of what is happening is that the dynamics that have governed a few decades of digital technology are changing. And the cost of building software is collapsing. And it's not collapsing gradually, it's actually collapsing dramatically. So at New Public, where I work, I get to work with this amazing guy, Blaine Cook, who is one of the original engineers at Twitter. You know, and he has built a bunch of decentralized technology. You know, and he basically says, look, the consensus among his engineer friends is that building these kind of simple one-off tools that used to take a week, a month, you know, can now happen in 15 minutes. And the hard part that's still hard is deciding what to build and making it good. And so I know that AI is a loaded word, and we're all dealing with what it means for our work and our lives and our livelihood, and I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that, you know, it's all going to be fine. But what I am going to tell you is that there's a dimension of this shift that almost nobody is talking about, which is what it means for the infrastructure of our daily lives. Not AI making art or replacing people, but AI making it possible to build community tools that don't need to exploit you to survive. The thing that kept us locked into the extractive platforms was cost, and the lock is breaking. And so if software is cheap to build, you know, then you don't need a billion-dollar company to make a neighborhood platform. You don't need the extractive business model. You don't need the ads. You don't need the engagement maximizing algorithm. In the earlier kind of happier days of the internet, and I feel like Clay is probably like a friend of this community, Clay Shirky talked about cognitive surplus, the internet unlocking mass creative human energy. And I feel like we're in this like new moment of a surplus of building capacity, that tools that were too expensive to exist because they served communities instead of advertisers are suddenly viable. And this also means that the incumbents faced real competition because when alternatives are cheap to build, lock-in weekends, and the enshittification cycle can actually be broken because people can leave. So as it happens, this is like very far from theoretical for me, because Blaine and I and a bunch of our colleagues and friends at New Public are trying to show what this might look like with a new neighborhood site we call Roundabout. So we decided to build Roundabout inside New Public, this nonprofit, both because we thought there was this critical need that Nextdoor wasn't filling, and because we wanted to kind of demonstrate what it could look like when you don't have to build in the way that the VC extractive model demands. And so we started with what we call stewards, which are the people who actually do this hard work in every digital community of knitting people together. And the stewards, when you talk to Facebook stewards, when you talk to the people who used to do this on Nextdoor before Nextdoor kind of like quietly exited them, you know, they are the people day in and day out that make online community work, but they're often very far from the top of the priority list for a product person. So we've been sitting with these stewards and hearing what they need and figuring out what it looks like to build a neighborhood site around the people that make neighborhoods work. And we've also been thinking about sort of what are the places where people want to know about their local neighborhood, want to know about something that's happening about them, and there are these big gaps. And how do we actually enable people to come together collectively to fill those gaps for each other? And how do we enable local news sources to kind of plug into that to make sure that people are well informed about what's going on, and that they see the news that's not just the stabbings, but also, you know, the good things that are happening in our communities as well. And what's most important about this is kind of what it feels like. Because when you don't have to maximize for kind of shock engagement, you can start to build something that actually has that feeling, you know, that buzz that was happening in the room of like people talking to each other and getting to meet each other. You start to be able to build something that feels a little bit more like that. Actual community, not just rage bait. And so we've been piloting this out in 5 places around the country. And we've got a whole bunch of people already signed up to bring it to hundreds more places. And one of the nice things about kind of building this way as a nonprofit and is that it doesn't cost tens of millions of dollars to build, so we can focus on what's actually working from a social impact lens. How does this actually impact people in their lives? Are we making sure that we're actually engaging people from across the community rather than a super tight, highly engaged group, and so on? Anyway, one of the most fun parts of building Roundabout is working with people like Logan, who's our steward in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I just want to share a minute of video from Logan so you get a sense of what this looks like on the ground.
My name is Logan Elmore. I am the steward of Roundabout
Yeah.
North Chattanooga, and
Let's go back. Ready? Try again. Logan, over to you.
my name is Logan Elmore. I am the steward of Roundabout North Chattanooga, and I am from Saudi Daisy, Tennessee. A lot of places, even though they have access to like a news channel or news stations or newspapers, they still are lacking in like real local news that they can relate to in their community. A lot of people do not realize just like how much stuff really happens in our backyard. I was just finding all these different things that people were putting on in our community. It was really inspiring to see. My aunt texted me and she was like, you know, I've been living in Chattanooga since 1978, and I had not realized that like half the stuff that you were posting happens on like a weekly basis. People just don't realize because, you know, either if it's not posted on a Facebook group or it's not being shown in like their algorithm, then they're most likely going to miss it because no one's watching the news or no one's paying for a newspaper anymore.
All right, so that's Logan. And I think that's, you know, sort of that's where better things start, is with people who are taking on this work of building a different kind of community, and then tools that help support those people to do what they want to do. And what I'm trying to argue to you is that that is newly possible in ways that hasn't been possible in the recent past. So, you know, this talk is partly about Roundabout, but it's not really about Roundabout. It's about the moment that we're in. For a long time, the economics of the digital world have required that companies that build our digital neighborhoods design them in ways that make us scared, that make us isolated and addicted. And it's not a neighborhood, it's a trap. So it's no wonder that our kind of vision of the future itself has become dystopic and enshittified. And what I want to say is like that lock may be breaking. It does not have to be this way. And there's a new opportunity. And we get to ask a different question, which is not how do we make this more engaging, but how could our digital spaces actually feel if they were designed and built for people and by people instead of for venture capitalists? So that's a creative question. And I think it may be one of the most important creative questions of this moment. And it's one for people like you, people who shape how the world looks and feels, shape our vision of the future, and people like me, for creative people to like take on. This is Creative Mornings. This is a creative project. And I think it's time to de-shitify the future. We've let a bunch of big tech oligarchs decide what our neighborhoods look like, and it's time to kind of take that vision back. And so let's de-shitify the future. Let's re-goodify our neighborhoods and our streets and our communities. Thank you.
Eli, my heart needed your talk. Can we give him another round of applause? You know what I'm so happy about? We have plenty of time for Q&A of all the people, all the speakers. Eli, are you ready for our community?
I
And
would
their
love
questions?
it, yeah.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
Who has a question? Please stand up, be concise, and say your name.
Hi, Stephanie Greco. Thank you. I'm still having trouble. If you can just help me. I'm so glad you're doing this. But can you help me understand why fear-based communication maximizes engagement in the first place? Like, what is it about it that is doing that from any level, whether it be financial or I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not a neuropsychologist, but what I understand is that it's pretty easy to jack into some very primal parts of our attention, the way that our brains pay attention, and so surprise. When you surprise people, it's very hard for them not to pay attention to that. And fear, you know, we're wired to look around and figure out what the threats are in our landscape. And what's gross about the environment that we've built online is that we've essentially kind of weaponized that against ourselves. So we're constantly, you know, being jacked up with these cortisol hits in order to keep us paying attention to our phones and looking around for threats. And it gives us this view of what's happening around that's actually, you know, in many cases kind of darker than the reality. And you don't see that because it's less attention grabbing. So I guess my take is that all of that is downstream of, well, what are you trying to optimize for? And when you're trying to optimize for any form of attention, and not for kind of people coming together in the way that people are coming together here, for example, you know, you end up in these really dark feedback loops.
Hey, Anil.
Hey.
So I had a question. You said, my name's Anil. So
Legendary software developer.
that's
Neil.
very kind. So when you were talking about the choices Nextdoor made, you said nobody building these things is, you know, is evil or wrong, right? But like
I didn't say nobody. I said that. I said
Great.
they're not all.
Great. Well, but that's what I want to get at, right? Which is like you built this product, you're accountable for what you're building, and like Nirav Tolia started Nextdoor, Sarah Fryer, CEO, took it public. They're accountable for these choices, right? But their names don't come up. So I sort of like I want to ask like why we're so nice.
Oh.
Like how come?
I thought I was being pretty.
Well, but
No,
I mean
yeah.
in a very serious way. Like it's really interesting the thing we all do, that like their names don't come up. Like we never sort of say, here's a person who
Yeah.
did this thing. Whereas like you're accountable for what you made, so we're really happy to praise you. But it's just a stark contrast in how we talk about these things, and it's really like you're a very courageous and thoughtful speaker, and even you don't do that. So I just want to like call that out. It's interesting.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
not,
no.
not
well,
in a
it's.
negative way, but in a positive way.
No, I hear you. But I think there's actually, I guess I want to push us past the notion that if only we got the good people in, that would be enough. Like, I actually think that, yes, people are responsible for their actions, but these systems are bigger than the people within them. And what happens often when you put, if we were to put, you know, Bob Putnam himself at, this probably would not work really well, but like as the CEO of Nextdoor or whatever, you know, at the end of the day, the board's going to have a meeting and be looking at the balance sheet and trying to figure out, you know, sort of, and you end up in some of the same places even without any kind of like intent by a person. And so, so I think I'm just trying to kind of push toward, let's examine what are the conditions under which people make these kinds of decisions, rather than just trying to ask everyone to like be a good person, and that being enough. That what we know about humans is that you can take a good person and put them in a bad situation, and they're not going to act great a lot of the time.
Hi, I'm Exa.
Hi.
Thank you so much for this. Oh, thanks. I used to work here.
You have fans.
I'm curious about how, like, within the app, do you source the journalism and the media from people who are in the community? And if so, are you training them to, like, is this like an opportunity for like community-led journalism? Or how do you imagine like the articles that are being shared, the news that's being shared, the things that are being put out? How do you galvanize the community to create that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, you know, my long distant past was as a digital organizer at MoveOn, and one of the most amazing things about that was seeing what groups of volunteers can do when they're kind of got a mission together and have a structure that allows them to lead. And so part of what we're trying to build in Roundabout is kind of the structure where there's not just a steward, but there's a whole group of people that are coming together that really feel like this is our space. And it's been amazing. You know, Hayes on our team has been doing this kind of organizing work in communities, and you get, you know, dozens of people in a church basement saying like, you know what, like our town hasn't been well served by the platforms that we've had. We deserve better, and we're going to make it happen. And that energy, you know, is really contagious and infectious, and gets people kind of into this different orientation, because there's some sense of ownership rather than just kind of yet another serfdom.
I have a question from the live stream. It might be similar or going the same vein. Jessica on the live stream is asking, how is moderation handled on Roundabout?
It's a great question, and I could go on at length. But I think there's a couple pieces. So one is what we've learned from our research on moderation in these kinds of communities is that one piece is like having that steward changes the dynamics. So let's think about it maybe with regard to like Tina. Like the fact that Tina is a person who, I don't know what the bad thing to do at Creative Mornings is, but like you're coming in and you're, I don't know, yelling out your pitch out of time. Like Tina's going to notice that. Tina's going to probably do something about it, and it's going to be kind of embarrassing for you in the context of this community. I don't want to, you know, but that really changes the dynamics of what people are willing to do in these spaces. The percentage of people who are coming on deliberately to kind of mess things up is really small. And usually you can kind of like identify those people pretty quickly. Then there's this middle group that is like, I don't know what the norms are here. I don't know how to behave. Imagine people, some of them are better at reading the room than others. And the moderation regimes that we've had have been these really kind of, actually like kind of police state punitive regimes or nothing. And so either you basically like, it's the equivalent of getting like hauled out of the room forever, and that's embarrassing and shameful, and then you have an angry reaction and you come back harder, or nothing happens and everyone goes like, I guess it's okay to just be a total jerk. And so what you want is this middle ground that's actually like kind of calling people into the group norms, and we've tried to build that both so that it makes it easy for the stewards to do that, but also actually that it's kind of built into the product. And so there's a set of norms that the stewards set up at the beginning that you read when you join, but then when you are posting something that might be transgressing these norms, we have this kind of moment where a little box pops up and it says, look, like, we're not going to tell you not to post that. You can post that, but people may see that as in violation of this norm that we have about calling people names. And what we find is that that actually is a great kind of de-escalatory pathway, because instead of saying like, okay, you have to decide between, you know, we're telling you what to do and you're being censored, it's like, well, here's how people normally act. You have a choice about how you behave. And we find that that really changes the way that people engage in the community. So it's those two pieces are kind of the linchpins of how we're approaching it. But, you know, we have a ton to learn, and I'm sure we'll get all sorts of exciting, amazing moderation challenges ahead, because moderation is an unsolved human problem.
Over here.
Great. Yeah, hi.
Hi, everyone. My name's Lenny.
Hi, Lenny.
So Black and brown communities, marginalized communities, immigrant communities are often ones that are a very big fabric of local neighborhoods and communities, but also the ones that maybe have the most kind of distrust for technology, even ignorance about technology, right? So with maybe Roundabout or just like any technology platforms that are looking at localized community building, what are ways to engage with that community, but also educate them on how it could be helpful? If you could ask, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it's actually been one of our, some of the research we did to set this up identified that it's kind of this double whammy where the communities that are, so a lot of like lower socioeconomic class communities or marginalized communities don't have kind of traditional news sources or traditional hubs anyway, and then they also are less likely to have you know, a Facebook group or a next door, a thriving next door place. And some of that is about sort of the prioritization decisions that the platforms make about who's economically valuable and whose advertising eyeballs are, you know, worthwhile. And so, so I think it's a big area of focus for us to build something that's actually like makes it easy for people who have traditionally not been part of these conversations to be part of it and to be full members of it. Because the other thing that you see a lot on these platforms is kind of like, who's that brown person that shouldn't be here from white people? That's like that's a common post type. And so the way that we're approaching that is both by making this something that's really easy to receive in the places where people already do. So instead of having yet another kind of app that you're having to open up, how do we like make it a place that is easy to get by email or by text or by WhatsApp or whatever? Like, how do we bring it out to where people are rather than expecting people to come to us? And that's one of the things that's like great about, again, not having to have lock-in as our primary goal.
I'm over here if somebody has a question over here. There we go.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I have a question. It seems like you have an opportunity where there's a confluence between reducing overhead costs and the need for highly trained technical staff being a large proportion of the group that's building, and the creation of human problems rather than technical problems as the primary focus. Does that mean you get to put more people in who are good at solving human problems as part of the people who are doing the work?
Yeah, thank you for, yeah, no, our team that's building this has 2 people who are doing kind of like community and neighborhood organizing, has a full-time researcher who's really looking at like, how is this working for people, doing these kind of in-depth co-design experiences, has a designer, and then has Blaine, our one engineer, who is actually doing the like coding of building it. And that's a great, you know, that really shifts the power dynamics of how decisions get made and what gets built, because you have a bunch of people who are like, you know, Blaine is actually like an amazing people first engineer. So I don't want to set. He's probably watching the live feed, but he's outnumbered in a good way by people whose job is to like be seeing how people are using it. And I think that's the opportunity. I feel, I'll just say, like, I'm not like some AI hype dude by any stretch of the imagination, and so it's like weird to have that be part of the argument here. But I also think, I thought about it and I felt like it was really important, because what I think is possible now is for people like the people here who have a good sense of what communities need and people need, but who don't have the ability to hire 10 engineers to do stuff that we couldn't do before. And that creative moment is what I wanted to kind of like draw attention to, even with all of the dystopic elements of what we're facing in other areas.
Eli, I'm so glad you exist, and unfortunately we have to stop. Can we give another round of applause for Eli?
Thank you.
I really mean it. My heart needed this talk. All right, 30-second pictures. Come on up. Abby. Maybe just line up right here. And then who's taking the notes of the 30-second pictures? Huh? Huh? Brianna? Do you want to maybe come over on this side so the pictures can... Okay, good.
All right, so just a reminder for 30-second pictures. You only have 30 seconds. I have this handy-dandy xylophone that I will play after 30 seconds, which means you are done. All right. So we'll go with Matthew first.
This is a self-promotion pitch because I recently started doing pop music. So I'm known as a designer and a fashion technologist and all kinds of other titles that I've worn. But now I'm doing pop music, and I'm finding it's difficult to get people interested in someone 60 years old doing pop music. So there's a definite cognitive bias around it. So my pitch to you is to find my Instagram, listen to my music. If you're a journalist, write about it. If you could repost it. And it's kind of interesting that the songs that I'm writing in the new album are anthems for and miracles for dystopian science. So it definitely has a fit within it. Sorry, okay.
Hi, my name's Shia Levitt. I run a project called News Ambassadors, and it's newsambassadors.org. I train newsrooms and journalists on a few strategies, including depolarization reporting strategies that are born from conflict mediation psychology studies, like how people actually behave when they're feeling suspicious and threatened by the other side, and distilling lessons to improve our coverage of contentious issues. These strategies are created by Amanda Ripley, author of High Conflict, amazing book. Lessons have wide applications beyond the journalism field, and we're now opening them up to individuals as an experiment. We're doing a training March 10th, sojonewsambassadors.org/events.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Martin. I'm looking for collaborators on my one-woman show called Jenny Eats the World, Tales of a Traveling Bulimic. It follows my adolescence as a Division I anorexic swimmer to overeating and then uneating as a world traveler during the advent of Instagram. And I know that this is an important story to tell because we all know someone suffering with an eating disorder, and we have very little media, TV shows, and videos, movies about this topic. So hope to see you. You can follow me at jennifermartin.live. Thank you.
Oh my God, hello, my name is Alina. I'm from New Zealand. I'm gonna do a very non-New Zealand thing and pitch myself. I'm for hire. I have a biomedical degree, a human rights degree. I worked in startups and Ministry of Education and the biggest hospital back home in New Zealand as a product manager and community organizer. I run an organization similar to this one for 5 years in New Zealand. So, wow, I'm so cool. And I have an amazing American work visa that is like open to anything. So if you want to hire me, please. Thank you.
Wow, that was a cool pitch. By the way, we're all going to send in the follow-up email of the event. Everyone's information is going to be on there. And Matthew, I love your music. And I love that you just discovered your inner pop king. Again, Matthew was my first boss, so I'm so happy he's here. Okay, before I let you all go, I want to thank the team, the volunteer team that makes this all possible. Without them, these events wouldn't be as smoothly. And if you want to give them a round of applause, please do. Abby, Alicia, Angelica, Anushka, Brian, Brianna, Crystal, Finn, Kate, Kevin, Kirsten, Krista, Kristen, Lena, Leah, Lenny, Lisa, Megan, Meredith, Arana, Sue, and Whitney. And then these legends, Nelson and Connie. Nelson runs the Photographer Club. He has been shooting our events for 2 years straight. Connie has been shooting our events for 8 years straight. Hired his people, they're incredible. Then Matthew, thanks to Matthew, there is a live stream. And next month, we're gonna have a very unique Creative Mornings experience. This was sort of the usual, which I love, but we're gonna break the mold a bit next month. First of all, we're gonna be at the Ace Hotel in downtown Brooklyn, which is really cool. And we're partnering with the organization called The Jar. And what it's gonna be, I just wanna warn your introverts, you're gonna have to really, you're gonna have to show up with lots of coffee because it's gonna be a very connective experience. It's gonna go deep, we're gonna go in groups, we're gonna talk to each other. I promise you, I've experienced a jar. It's the most beautiful thing. You will walk away with new friends. And then, as always, I want to leave you with a quote. And this one is about a person that has so deeply moved me. You're so funny, Dawn. You're airdropping me stuff, and I can't read my notes right now. You're so cute. That is so cute. Anyway, I was so deeply moved by Alisa Liu, who won the gold medal in ice skating. I'm not even an ice skater. Hold on. I need to find my mouse so I can accept your airdrops. That is so cute.
I'm so sorry. I was just saying, you're so cute, Tina.
Thank you so much. No, I love that you're sending me photos. Okay, so I'm not even an ice skater. I'm not even a big Olympics person, but I saw everyone posting about Alisa Liu. And then me and my partner watched that performance. I don't know what happened to me, but I was sobbing. And I was like, this is what happens when women are free. And then I was like really going down a rabbit hole on threads and seeing what everyone was writing. And this one person really sort of put it together for me. So I want to read you what he said about this moment. At this pivotal moment in American history, Alisa Liu represents something that we all needed very badly. She is joy, she is hope, she's unity. She's the rejection of the patriarchy, she's authenticity, she's boldly autonomy. She is the antithesis of self-centered individualism, yes. She is the love for the people with whom we share space. She is the embodiment of everything the American dream is supposed to mean. Draco, I thank you for your words, and I agree. And thank you all for being here. James, thank you for hosting us. Eli, thank you for speaking.